Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber, and joining me as always is my awesome co-host, Delicious Dwaylon Davis.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are so honored to have as a guest in our continuing series of why we are wrestling fans. You've heard us talk about him, and if you've been a long time listener or watcher of the show, you already know who this is. The Podfather himself, Ted the Hillbilly Heel from the Heel Truth. Welcome, Ted.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Glad to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you. Because I even told Dwayne, I said, I'm going to reach out to Ted because I wanted to make sure everything, your schedule was good, make sure everything was cool with you. And I said, okay, I'm going to invite Ted. And you said, heck yeah, I want to come on. And I said, Dwayne, Ted's in.
Yeah.
And, Dwayne started jumping up and down for joy. So thank you so much for coming on. This is a real honor.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I mean, to be on the Armchair Booking Podcast, which you can catch on YouTube, which is the only video platform that they're on. You can also find them on Twitter at Booking Armchair, on Instagram, on Facebook, all those type of things. They've got a TikTok channel that they have been trying to get back going. Then you can find Dwaylon. He's got his own YouTube with Fat Daddy and Big Mama. So they've got their TikTok and their YouTube. Plus, you can find merch for Armchair Booking. And you can find me at Hillbilly Heel on Twitter and my podcast on all your audio platforms.
And ladies and gentlemen, Ted did that from memory. And I did not prompt him. So we know Ted is actually Ted listens.
Mm-hmm.
But that is why he's the Podfather, and that's why he's #1 in Antarctica, trending on MySpace, award-winning.
Yes.
Speaking of Antarctica, this is a case where real life actually interfered with plans. Were you able to reschedule your meet and greet?
We're looking into spring, but it'll be their winter, so we got the travel schedule, the migration of the penguins, the iceberg. We got to plan everything, but that's what we're looking for.
All right, cool. I mean, I do know a person who's actually was just in Antarctica recently, straight up. In fact, the girl that Dwaylon and I interviewed the other day, it's one of her friends. One of my wife's friends, one of my friends. But yeah, she was literally just
Dave, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You there?
Dave?
Yep. Are you here?
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah, sorry. I was just talking about...
yeah, you kind of froze up
yes.
on it.
Yeah, you froze up on us.
My internet connection is unstable. Let me tell my son to get off the internet. Either that or let me just kill all my Wi-Fi's that I have going. Wi-Fi dead. Let me kill the other one. I apologize for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And let me see which connection I'm on anyway, because sometimes that makes a difference.
Well, while he's fixing that, also, Steve has another podcast called Cubicle Chat that you can find on Twitter and also on all your audio platforms, where he talks about other stuff besides wrestling, where he has guests on. They talk about pop culture and other things like that.
Sure do. In fact, I was talking to Dwaylon earlier today. Looks like we're going to be having him back on as a guest here sometime in the near future. Right, Dwaylon?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Don't know the date yet because I also have to work that out with my other co-host. He's all down for it, so I think that'll be actually be a good show because we were talking about having Dwaylon back on anyway, because Dwaylon's not only is he a good co-host and just awesome dude, he's also a good guest. You can talk to him about anything. He really is a walking encyclopedia, not just wrestling, but just about anything you can think of. Dwaylon's right there. So
yeah, from stuff I've heard, and stuff, and Dwaylon, and for all you fans that may be your first time listening because you maybe have followed me over here from the other truth, Dwaylon is like the biggest Led Zeppelin fan that there ever was.
Yeah, that's me. All right. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know how hard I was going to start laughing about that one, but that was.
That's what you call long-term storytelling, right?
That is
going back and bringing it up. Yeah.
Yep. And that is why you are the king. But the name of the game today, and now, we've already talked about how our contact listing info, and I was going to even say, hey, Ted, I stole this idea from you. since a lot of people don't make it to the end of the podcast, why don't you tell us how do people get a hold of you and how they catch your show first? But now we've already done that, and
we've already got it out of the way.
Yeah.
Yep. See, we're all on the same wavelength here. Yep. So tell us why, Ted. When we go into why we're wrestling fans, there's always a beginning. So tell us your beginning on your fandom.
Like a lot of your guests, blame it on Grandma. Okay, I mean, I remember late 70s, 7, 8 years old, and back home we called her Mama. Okay, so it wasn't Grandma, it was Mama, and Mama would have on wrestling, and the 2 shows that I remember at an early age was ICW, which is Angelo Poffo's promotion out of Kentucky.
Yep.
With Leaping Lanny and the Macho Man Randy Savage before he became big and blew up the world. That and Mid-Atlantic. So those were the 2 that I remember as a small child watching, and it just, it was the same thing every Saturday. You watch cartoons till about noon, okay? Because now you young people, there was no Cartoon Network, there was no Disney, there was none of this.
Nope.
You had cartoons till about noon, then Mid-Atlantic come on from 12 to 1, then ICW come from 1 to 2, and then that was it. I mean, 2 was Mom didn't even want me to stay in the house at 2 on Saturday.
Yeah.
I was out the door, and you don't come back till it was dark and supper time. Get out.
Yep.
So, but that's the way it was, and I just remember watching it every Saturday, and then early 80s, and again, I can't remember I don't remember how we did it. I don't remember if we got a box. I don't remember what Dad had hooked up to the TV. But all I know is we got a couple extra channels, and one of them was the Superstation, TBS. And then every Saturday night at 6:05, it started out Georgia Championship Wrestling, and that just, oh man, I was even more. It was like a drug, Saturday night, 6:05.
Oh wow! So you said late 70s. So
yeah,
definitely beat me. Dwaylen, that sounds right about the time that you may have started watching as well.
Yeah, I started watching about 5 years old. So yeah, late 70s. Yep.
And you said it was with your grandma. I'm the only person, apparently that did not start watching it with their grandma.
Yeah.
But everybody else, did. So what was it about it when you first started watching it that made you just hooked? I mean, almost like addictive, like you had to watch it.
Just the characters, and especially back then because, you had a lot of promos, and a lot of the matches on TV were more of your, what we would call an enhancement talent, sort of like dark elevation now. Every now and then you'd have a big angle play out on TV, but just the way they would talk, it just captivates you. And then I remember, I don't even remember how old I was, but Mid-Atlantic and ICW would come on a loop, and usually a couple times a year there, they would come through our area and do a show at one of the local high schools. And I remember just going to that and seeing the crowd. And again, back when kayfabe was real, you would see these older people at ringside get so upset and want to hurt somebody because the one that they loved and were cheering for was getting beat. And it was just the passion of it and stuff like that. It just, I don't know, it was just great storytelling. It was, I always liked the comic books and the superheroes and stuff, but these seemed to me more, I guess, in a way more relatable because they weren't aliens or didn't have superpowers. They were just men in underwear,
Yeah.
fighting each other.
Yeah.
But they still had characteristics about them that was like, man, this is just so cool.
Oh, so who were some of your favorite wrestlers back then, and who are some of your favorites now?
Well, back then, and again, I don't know what it says about me as a person, but I always gravitated towards the bad guys. I don't
Same.
know why, but
Me too.
so like in ICW, it was Randy Savage, the Macho Man. He was just so, even back then, just the charisma about him. And even though I knew he cheated and I knew what he was doing as a younger person, that you're not supposed to do that because, I played sports and you're taught not to cheat, and I knew he was cheating, but him and he had Cowboy Bob Orton was one of his sidekicks there, and they were just doing things underhanded, but just the charisma of him. And then on the Mid Atlantic side, just some of them, because, a lot of people don't realize that in those early Mid Atlantic days in the late 70s and early 80s, Flair was just coming into his own. And a lot of times he was the baby face,
Mm-hmm.
and I gravitated more towards Greg Valentine. He was a great heel. I liked Valentine. Also, there for a while before he become G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter in the WWF, Sarge was in Mid Atlantic,
Yep.
and he was a heel, and he had the classic U.S. title where the plate was shaped like the United States of America.
Yep.
And he was a bad guy, and I liked him, and just some of those, and then it was just, those were some of my earliest memories, and some of those I really liked back then. And then, as it went on into the 80s and Jim Crockett, and we got those, of course, the Horsemen, that was my guys, Horsemen. And then more on the mid card. And for people, I'm telling you now, if you've never, go back and watch it. But there's a guy named Pistol Pez Watley.
Yes.
Yep.
And when he turned heel and became Shaska Watley, his year-long feud in '86 with Jimmy Valiant.
Yeah.
If you will listen to his promos, I'm telling you, it will crack you up. But I love Shaska. He was just killing it. So, that whole Crockett, I tell some of my friends now, especially if you like promos, to me, the peak year of Jim Crockett Promotions was 1986. You can find it on Peacock. And it's just promo after promo. You have Dusty, you have Magnum, you have the Rock and Roll Express, you got Cornette, Midnight Express, you got the Road Warriors, you got the Horsemen. It's just such great stuff that that whole year was just awesome to me. It was like the peak of Jim Crockett. So, I love that. Now, you skip forward today. FTR are my guys. I love them. I love FTR. Probably some other ones. I haven't gotten to watch as much New Japan over the years as I wanted to. But what I have watched, I really love Will Ospreay. Not just for his in-ring, but he is just a great heel.
Yeah.
Jay White. Jay White is a great heel. I love his heel work. And a lot of these are AEW guys. I don't watch as much WWE probably as a lot of other people, but but as far as AEW, like I said, there's FTR, there's those guys. I don't know. You never know. I do. Kenny Omega is a great wrestler, but right now I don't know. I love the heel belt collector Kenny Omega, but now that he's back, I don't know how that's going to go. I like the House of Black. I think they're awesome. Just some of those.
Oh, Shaska Watley. Wow, that's and when you talk about his promos, one thing I remember he kept, because Jimmy Boogie William and Valiant, he was my favorite wrestler back then. And so Pistol Pez, when he turned on him, and I remember when he turned on him. I'm not going to get into why he turned on him.
No.
but but of course, when he did turn on him, he just happened to have a pair of scissors on him at the time.
Yeah.
So when he cut Jimmy's ponytail off, makes me think it may have been premeditated. But after that, he kept referring to Boogie Woogie as an undercover hillbilly.
Undercover hillbilly. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But then, and then the rest of his stuff was, was golden. But that was the one part I always remember was the undercover hillbilly.
Yep.
And
Yep.
actually, he went to the WWE Hall of Fame in the past couple of years, like in their
Yeah.
at the legacy section
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
but yeah, and I was glad to see that because he was one that I don't think really got his due
No.
as much as what he should have. But yeah, he was awesome. And then that was when Manny also turned on Boogie Woogie because he had that briefcase. I guess it was full of money that Paul Jones had. He just slammed it and he clocked Jimmy Valiant upside the head. And I was like, man, everybody's beating up Jimmy. I need to go in there and help him. All 10 years old of me.
So last year I went to an indie show in South Carolina. Boogie Woogie Man was there. I think he said he was 80 or 81.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He was doing meet and greets. He had a little booklet, a little paperback booklet on how to become a professional wrestler. Gave you advice, training tips, nutrition. I bought it. He signed it, so I've got it somewhere. And then that night, I think it was the opening match. He wrestled in a 6-man. So at about 80-some years old, I mean, he didn't do a lot, but he was in the ring and he was dancing and he grabbed somebody and kissed him right on the mouth, and he poked him in the eye, and he was typical Jimmy Valiant at 80-some years old. So what can you say? He's still doing it.
I'm finally going to get the chance to meet him in March because they're having a fan fest event. It's up in Chillicothe, Ohio, being put on by Bobby Fulton, and he does this about once every 6 months. And Jimmy's going to be there. Rock and Roll Express is going to be there. Arn Anderson's going to be there along with his son Brock. There's a couple other ones, and I'm like, yeah, this is the one because it looks like quite a few of the old Mid Atlantic and Jim Crockett ones from when I was watching it are going to be there. And yeah, and see, this is when I really need to have Dwaylen come up, for a couple of days and stay here at the house, and we would head up there and up to the great town of Chillicothe, who apparently they had a serial killer a few years ago. I don't think they ever caught him, but anyway, that's another story. But speaking of the live events, perfect segue. Actually, you're talking about going to the indie show. Could you give a guesstimate on how many live events you've been to, and as far as like meeting wrestlers, and what are some of your best experiences with that, or your most favorite ones?
Okay, so when I was young, every time they came, so I, like I said, they were just little house shows at the high school, so I couldn't count those. I don't know how many of those that I saw, and those, as far as experience on that, I don't remember. Maybe 10, maybe 11. I can't remember. My aunt worked at a convenience store, and the county I grew up in, the streets pretty much rolled up at 8 o'clock, 9. So this convenience store was the only one that had gas pumps, little convenience store. It was the only one open, and it would stay open to midnight. And I remember going to one of the events at high school, and my mom afterwards said, we need to go up, and said, I need to talk to my sister. She's working. So we went up there, and usually I guess, the wrestlers, since it was the only place open, would stop by there.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, Randy Savage and Ronnie Garvin had beat each other half to death in the main event. Well, they'd stop there to get them something to eat or something to drink, and they were laughing with each other out in the parking lot. So that killed kayfabe for me.
Right.
That was my Santa Claus is mommy and daddy moment, and it broke my heart. So that's one memory from an early one. As I got older, I really didn't get to go to anything until my sons, I forget how old they were, and I was trying to get them into wrestling. And when we were living in, we were living in North Carolina, I do remember going to this was mid 2000s. There was a pay per view at Charlotte. WWE, may have been Vengeance or one of those that they don't name anymore.
Right.
I know DX was back, Shawn and Triple H, and that was when they were feuding with the Spirit Squad. So
Yeah,
it was one of those pay per views.
Either I think it was Vengeance. Yeah, I think you're right. Either Vengeance or Backlash, one of the two.
Yeah, one of those. But it was in Charlotte, so I took my boys to that, and then didn't really go to anything up until here recently. Then in the last year, let's see, 2020, let's see, 2021, I went to 2 AEWs. 2022, I went to an AEW. Have been going to a lot of, sort of indie shows because where the AEW guys get to wrestle, independent shows, you get to see a lot of them around here in North and South Carolina. Been to several meet and greets. I did go this Thanksgiving 2022, but Thanksgiving 2021, they have a big WrestleCade in Winston-Salem where they've got. I did get to go to that and got to meet a lot, so I've met quite a few. I've gotten, quite a few pictures and autographs, and because I know the WrestleCade in 2021, the main event was Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews, and that was before Buddy had came to AEW. But yeah, that was a really good event. They had like a battle royal that had a couple of guys that used to be in ECW and some local talent. And I know the last entry, they started playing Enter Sandman. So everybody thought Sandman from ECW was coming.
Right.
And they were looking at the entrance, but then the spotlight turned in the crowd and the spotlight come and it was Hornswoggle. So he's coming down the aisle. And we were like maybe 3 or 4 rows back. I mean, we were pretty close to ringside there. And he comes up through there, and he's got a kendo stick just like Sandman. And like the row in front of us, he tells the guy to move out of his chair, grabs his beer, starts swigging it, stands up in the chair, and does the whole Triple H thing where he spits the beer back up in the air. He gets in the ring, starts hitting people with the kendo stick, and beats up a bunch of them. Then he just rolled out of the ring. He never did get technically eliminated, and he was gone.
It was a full-size kendo stick.
Yeah, about as tall as he was. So it was pretty good.
Oh, I really hope somebody has got that.
Oh yeah, it's like let me steal a couple of gimmicks and then roll on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has that,
I mean that night. That night there was Jeff Jarrett against Matt Cardona, and he gave Cardona a really wicked guitar shot. Jay Lethal was there. He was getting beat up. He run to the backstage, and then he come back as Black Machismo. He come back, done all that. He done a whole wardrobe change, and then come back and finish the match. So, yeah, it was a really good time.
It sounds like kind of like, was it Foley in '99? Was that the year he did that?
I'm trying to think.
Oh yeah, the 3
98,
faces.
98. Yeah,
98, okay.
Where he did the 3. Yeah.
And since then, he's also came in as just Mick Foley.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm thinking Saturday night we're probably going to see that with Bray Wyatt. He's going to be the 6 faces. He's going to be Uncle Howdy, run back, be the Fiend, be Bray Wyatt, be Sister Abigail, be that rabbit, be all those. He's going to be all 6 of them. So there's only going to be 24 other wrestlers in the Rumble. He'll be 6 of them
because he's taking 6 spots.
And maybe at some point they'll explain to what a Mountain Dew pitch black match is.
I don't know. I don't know why they just didn't have just let them wrestle. You don't have to put anything, all this stupid stuff on it. Just let
Why
them
s-
wrestle.
Yeah, why start with a gimmick match?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
what do you
that's
think?
what they did with Karrion Cross and Drew McIntyre. They
Yeah,
started with a strap match, and it's like
Yeah.
you do not start a feud and go straight to the strap match. That's back in the day, that was like the end. That's when your
yeah,
opponent kept running and you had to keep them in the ring. You know,
and right about now, Dwayne, what would we always say? You know who we need to ask?
Ted.
Ted. So, so what do you think, Ted, about how starting a feud with a gimmick match?
I don't like it, and I, you got to build to it. There
Exactly.
has to be a reason.
Yeah.
Like right now, I was going to do a whole episode on mine, but I will go ahead and rant on this. I'm sorry, WWE fans, but you all, they have ruined the normal steel cage match for me.
Yes. I
To
agree.
escape the cage is not a way to win. Okay, it needs to be by pinfall or submission.
Yeah.
Bingo.
When you have two people in a heated feud,
One of them shouldn't
you
run
have
away.
the baby face.
Yeah.
Right. The baby face wants to get you in the cage because of interference or because of everything. He wants you by himself. And the heel will normally try to chicken out of it. But then at the last minute, he'll say, well, if I get you in the cage, I'm going to tear you up or whatever. But when you get them both in the cage and it's heated, if the heel plays the chicken roll and escapes, he should not be rewarded for it.
Exactly.
And if you're the face, if you are the face, you should not want to escape to win the match. You want to beat the guy down and then walk out.
I agree.
So that's what I'm saying. The whole thing with gimmick matches, you build to it, you build to it, you build to it, you build, just like we saw it last year. Our condolences to the Briscoe family.
Absolutely.
Jay Briscoe and all that. But one that I rank it up there with Steamboat and Flair. FTR and the Briscoes had a normal match.
Yep.
Then they went 2 out of 3 falls. The tension kept building.
Yeah.
Then they went to the dog collar for the finale.
Yep.
Great storytelling.
That's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, once you start with the gimmick match, where do you really logically go from there? I mean, you can't.
Well, like I go back to Karrion Cross and Drew McIntyre. They started with a strap match. Then the next match they had was a cage match, and then the feud was over. It's like it's like they didn't know where to go from there, so they just dropped it. And it's like that's been the fundamental problem with WWE's booking for the last 10 years or more, is that they throw stuff out there and then they don't know where they're going with it. And so it's like, oh, well, we're done with it. We'll move on to something else. The fans will just forget about it.
And we thought we were done with that. But go ahead, Ted.
I'll even say, I'll criticize AEW a couple years ago with the Pinnacle and Inner Circle.
Yes.
They should have never started with the Blood and Guts, because after the Blood and Guts, you didn't have anywhere to go with it.
Exactly. Yeah. They should have built to that. They should have had little mini feuds between the different members and things, and then build to faction against faction and all that. But they just right out the gate went for Blood and Guts, and then it's like it just fizzled out after that because they didn't have anywhere to go.
Yep.
Oh, and speaking of the Rumble, I'm kind of segue a little bit into modern stuff. Ted, you want to give some predictions? What you think about the Rumble? So far there's 5 matches. 2 of those, of course, are the Rumble matches. And we've already mentioned the Bray Wyatt and LA Knight, the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, and apparently they have sponsors for matches now. I don't know what to think about that. It's like NASCAR,
And see that's and see again, and I'm just going to throw this out. I know, Steve, you were in the military and stuff, and if you still got any connections in the government, let's let sponsors take over some of the debt. When we do these space launches, I always thought back in the day when the shuttle would go up, It should be like NASCAR. It should have been plastered. It should have been the Coca-Cola space shuttle. That,
just stickers and everything everywhere.
Right. The Burger King Coca-Cola Pennzoil space shuttle is going up today with the astronauts.
There you go.
Let them fit the bill. But so Rumble. I'm pretty much like everybody else that I've seen online. I think Cody will probably. I don't know what they're going to do with Sammy. I'm worried if Sammy's in the Rumble and Cody wins it, then we may have a situation with Batista,
Batista,
Daniel Bryan situation.
Yes.
So I don't know. But if Sammy's doing something else on the side, then, I'm assuming Cody will probably win the men's. Rhea Ripley should win the women's. I really
100% agree.
Yeah.
There's not right now, no disrespect to Bianca or anybody else, but right now there is not a more complete female performer in WWE than Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if not Rhea Ripley, then I'll second with Shayna Baszler, because
and they just do not do her justice. I mean, the money feud is right there with her and Ronda Rousey. But instead, they've got her just following Ronda Rousey around doing her dirty work. And it's like, one, why does Ronda need anybody to do her dirty work?
Right.
Two, why are you not giving us this feud? Two legit fighters.
Yeah, and I'm guessing I can't go with Ember Moon this year.
No, she is. But she is the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion.
Yeah.
There you go. So you know what? Forbidden door.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Now, I will say on the men's Rumble, if Cody does not win it, or if they don't decide to do Sammy, my personal favorite is the second best heel behind MJF in the business today, and that's ex-Con Dom. Okay? I love me some Dominic Mysterio. Hard times. I mean,
him coming out with the purple bandana on his face and everything.
Yes.
It's like, stop that.
I mean, he's so, because a year ago when he was with his dad, I'm like, man, he just, bless it, as we say in the South, bless his heart, bless his heart. But now it's like he's so useless. He knows he's useless.
Oh, yeah, he knows.
Damian Priest and Finn Balor knows he's useless.
Rhea
Ripley knows he's useless.
Yeah.
But he's just playing it up, and I love it. It was such a great thing for him. So, yeah. So ex-Con Dom, baby. I'm all on board that train.
They have 16 people already announced for the men's, which I'm thinking, why do you announce, over half the entrants already? But as far as all the ones who are announced, Vince is back, so I could easily see him trying to give it to Austin Theory.
Or sliding Brock in there at the last minute and give it to Brock.
Oh, yeah.
Remember they did that before.
They did, and I would have a riot in my living room if they did that.
Same.
And Amos, I can't see it. He's not ready for a main event.
No.
Drew, not again. Karrion Kross, I could actually see that one. That one I think actually would be decent. Cody, I've actually thought about him. The only reason I don't think they'll give it to Cody is because they need to finish up him and Seth Rollins. And if they give to Cody, unless they were to all of a sudden put the title on Seth, and that's who Cody would go against at WrestleMania for that, but I don't see that happening.
All the WrestleMania plans are kind of up in the air because The Rock has said that he doesn't think he's going to have time to get into ring shape before WrestleMania because of all his other commitments that he's got. So if they don't go there, then I don't know, it leaves it kind of wide open because, like you said, Cody could win or Seth could win or Sammy could win, especially if there's no Roman versus Rock, then you've got several people who could challenge for the title. I would go with Roman and Sammy at WrestleMania if they can't do the Rock, because that would be the perfect end to the whole Bloodline Sami Zayn saga, would be for Sammy to finally realize that they were using him and get a title shot. Not saying he's going to win it, but just him being in the main event would, be perfect for that story.
I was talking to the guys from the Dad World Order podcast last Saturday when I was at the NWF event down in Covington.
Right.
And we were talking about that, the whole thing with Sam, and they actually brought up the Elimination Chamber. And we kind of kept the scenario. I was like, wait a minute, what if KO, Kevin Owens, what if he's also in the Elimination Chamber? Because for some reason they always put the world champion in the Elimination Chamber for whatever reason. And all of a sudden he may get eliminated, but he turns around, stuns Roman Reigns, and then looks at Sammy and says, "Merry Christmas."
You go. Yeah.
And walks out.
Yeah.
So that's a
possibility
that's
too.
Scenario. Yeah. So I just figured I'd throw that one in there just because it was brought up to me, and I meant to tell you about the other day, Dwaylen, and I totally forgot. Kind of like, and I finally got to say it, Dwaylen. Ted, not too long ago, my sister was actually back because my sister lives in New Bern. She was actually back in Hopkinsville visiting my mom and stepdad. While she was there, she ran into Dwaylen's brother Terrence, and she sent me a picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I keep on meaning to bring it up on the podcast, and I finally remembered because Terrence is actually somebody we'd like to get on to do this series as well. In fact, if we get them together,
well,
now, go ahead. Ted.
I do agree with Elimination Chamber, but now this is just my prediction. My prediction is the Elimination Chamber because is it not in Canada?
Oh, my
you might be. Let me check.
You know what? I think that's another reason why they brought that up because Sami Zayn, I mean, he is pretty popular, especially if it's in Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a big storyline, but I could actually see at Mania, Kevin Owens and Sammy taking the tag titles off the Usos if they don't go with Sammy against Roman.
Right.
I mean, that's one possibility. It depends on what they're going to do with Cody and again Rock. Then I saw another report that there was a talk of Austin against Roman. I don't know, but
yeah, it's going to be at the Bell Center in Montreal.
Oh,
okay. So there will be
Hmm.
something big in the storyline there because now here's the other thing: the whole bloodline cannot be in Canada because
the Usos.
The Usos,
right.
yeah.
Which one has the DUI? I always forget.
Actually, both of them.
Both of them do.
Both of them have DUIs.
Yeah.
Okay, they can't go into another country.
Nope.
So they won't be there. So to just be Solo Sikoa would be the only backup that Roman would have. So there will be something big happening at the Elimination Chamber, which I think will feed into the story into WrestleMania. But again, depend upon the Rumble, because at this point with the Rumble, for all I know, like I said, if Vince is back in charge, he may have made amends with Shane. Shane may come out at 30 and win it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you never know, really.
Granted, it was when I heard that Vince fired Shane last year, I was like, okay, Vince ain't playing around. He's pretty mad. I for some reason I'd forgotten about the Usos. They can't go into Canada because, and this is actually something how serious Canada are about that. My wife, Ted, I told you before we started recording, she's a travel agent. Whenever she books somebody on like international travel, if they're doing a layover in Canada, they have to check their bag. Just a layover. They're only there at the airport, not leaving. They have to check their background. If they've had it, they can't even do a layover in Canada.
Yeah. Canada, and they don't care how long ago the DUI was. If you've ever had a DUI, you're not allowed in the country.
So,
well, the only thing I know about how strict Canada is because my wife has made me watch Yellowstone, and one time them horses went from Montana into Canada, and there was a big there was a big problem there. So I know Canada is really strict about DUIs and horse thieves and letting horses get into Canada. So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that show because
I like it. I think it's good.
Okay, you know what?
She's made me watch it, so I'm okay with it. Now she's got me. I haven't caught all of 1883, but I'm working on it, and then we're gonna get to 1923. So we're working on it. We're working on it.
Oh, Dwaylen, I'm just missing out on all these shows, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but speaking of Canada, I do want to give a shout out to Wrestling with the Truth, to BC Hunter and Jay Myers, because they were on our show not so long ago. Had another great time with them, and I actually told BC later on, I was like, I said we've actually only had 2 conversations with them, but it feels like we've been friends.
Oh yeah, for
forever.
a long time. Yeah.
2 great guys, great show. And Ted, you've been on their show.
They're a bunch of hacks. They're a bunch of hacks. That's all they are. That's right, BC. You're listening. I love those guys. Love those guys.
And Ted, you've also been you were part of the Smack Raw podcast network,
or was yes.
It? Yes. And I know that it was an amicable split, where it kind of dissolved, because I think BC and Jay, they were also part of that for a short time. But I mean, I also like the podcast with, was it Kyle and RN, for for that. And I've sent messages. I believe it's Kyle who actually runs their Twitter.
Yeah.
And, we've messaged back and forth a couple of times because I like what they're doing on their show. It's not really wrestling the part, but when they're talking about there being
mental health and stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Because I told him, I said, Dwayne and I, we've been very open on our show.
Oh yeah.
About that. Yeah. And we're very happy. I'm glad they're doing it as well. And they have my support 100%.
Well, now as far as SmackDown, I'm just going to give y'all the real thing here. They said it was amicable, but we were all together and I was in my locker room, minding my own business. I had my dog with me and they kicked open the door. And I thought they were going to punch me, so I punched first. And then a friend of mine threw a chair. And then he bit one. No, wait a minute. That's the wrong fight. I'm sorry. That was Kenny Omega and Punk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
No, everybody was just doing their own thing, right. And that was it. And Will and Allison, the box spots and chair shots, I always have a hard time pronouncing that. Will is one of the hardest working guys. He does 1 or 2 shows a week. He has interviews. He writes for other websites, his website. He's got his TikTok going. He's just so busy. So everybody was doing their own thing. And, and it was like, however y'all want to do it. But, I still keep in contact with them. And like I said, guys from Wrestling with the Truth, Jaded Wrestling, Taylor, he's my buddy. He calls me, we talk 2 or 3 times a week. And so, there's a lot of them. But, I love all of those guys.
Yeah, because I think we've actually mentioned on the show and just to each other in private conversations, we say, if it wasn't for Ted, a lot of these shows we wouldn't know about each other.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep. So I know we are both very appreciative of everything you've done as far as the shout outs and then connecting everybody, your weekly tweets that you put out where you tag everybody, because you tag me, you tag Dwaylen, and you tag the Cubicle Chat. So it's not just wrestling podcasts. Mm-hmm. And that is why you are the Podfather. You have definitely earned the title.
Well, it's funny because I'll be honest with you, what I do is, sometimes I have to purge it because there's some people I shout out that never respond. So I'm sorry, but you're on the purge list.
Right.
But I do try to mix it up a little bit and put some podcasts and some people with others that I think that they might get to know. So if they see each other's name, so I'm trying to play Love Island matchmaker, trying to get people together to see. So, it's fun to see what happens, see some interaction there, So, and at the end of the day, it's all carny stuff. I'm just a carny at heart. I'm, I'm playing everybody. It's, I seem to be nice, but at the end of the day, it's all about me.
Hey.
So, that's all it is.
Got to do what you got to do.
Hey, the Hillbilly Heel.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And people get it. I mean, this is the Hill truth. And you definitely opened our eyes, and I don't know, are we converted yet, Dwaylen? Or are we still holding out, converting to the dark side, or you were already kind of a heel? So
I was already on the dark side. Yeah. It's more comfortable over there.
Yes, it is. It is.
I mean, like the one meme, hey, Cookie Monster, come to the dark side, get a free cookie.
Yeah, exactly.
There's free cookies. I'm there because I'm a fat guy with diabetes. Of course, I like cookies. So, but Dwaylen, do you have any more questions?
No, nothing I can think of. Ted, as always, it was a pleasure. I'm glad to see you're doing well, and hopefully we'll get you back on the show soon.
Yeah,
yeah, we're I appreciate this. Like I said, wrestling. I just I dropped out for a few years, but I'm back. I love it. It's just and I'm so fortunate, and I am so blessed. I will say, that's the thing about the podcast. I'm a truck driver, so I'm in a truck 10 to 14 hours a day. So I'm listening to all sorts of stuff, and I've just found a lot of great, people I've contacted, like you guys and others that I've met. And, it's just a big community. And I want to say thank you because, some of y'all that have listened to my podcast know that, we lost our house to a fire. And, my son set the GoFundMe up. And even just through that and the DMs that I got, and I was telling my wife, and she's like, "Who are these people?" And I'm like, podcast people. she's like, "Do people really like you and listen?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sort of a big deal, huh?"
Kind of like a big deal around here.
Yeah, but seriously, I thank everybody, and that's what people don't understand. It's the wrestling community, whether it's on Twitter or whether you go to independent shows or whatever, they really are a family. Because back in the day, it was taboo to say you like to watch professional wrestling.
Yeah,
and you connect. And the only thing that I've told people that I've ever found comparable to wrestling fans, the only thing close to me was NASCAR fans. Back in the day, I don't know about the nowadays. I don't watch it anymore. But back in the day, those people, they were tight knit. Even though, they had their driver and you had your driver, and you couldn't stand it on race day, but man, you could still connect and you could still talk, and you still love the sport. And that's the thing about wrestling. And I'll just say to everybody again, I've said on my podcast, there's no use to fight on Twitter. There's no use to do all this. Wrestling is like pizza. Everyone likes a certain crust. They like certain toppings. They like a certain brand, whether it be DiGiorno, Pizza Hut, Red Baron, whatever, Papa John's. But we all love pizza.
Yep.
So it's okay to like something different than somebody else. You don't have to get in a big fight, in a big argument, and all that.
Right.
It's just pretty much, just respect each other. It's wrestling. Okay.
Right.
It's again, grown men in underwear pretend fighting. Okay.
Exactly.
You don't have to get so upset about it.
Yeah.
And NASCAR, I did see somebody get stabbed in the parking lot in Rockingham one time. I don't know if it's because they had a disagreement about the driver or just because people were drunk, after the race.
Well, yeah, that could have been that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just figured out that's a story for another day. So, but all right, Ted, well, go ahead, and like I said, I'm going to copy you again. How do people find your podcast once again?
All right. You can find me on Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeart, Pocket Cast. I don't know about anything with audio. You can find The Heel Truth. Okay. Ted, the Hillbilly Heel. You can find it there. That's all I'm on is audio. I am audio exclusive. Okay. I don't do the YouTube. I don't do the TikTok. I don't do any of that yet. One day I will do TikTok. Not doing YouTube. I'm gonna be like Sting. I'm gonna hold out to the last minute before I ever jump
to
WWE and do YouTube. Now these guys are okay, and I appreciate it, but not me. I'm not doing it. There are some fake Pinterest accounts for Ted the Hillbilly Heel, but that's not me. Just Twitter at Hillbilly Heel.
Okay.
All right, cool. And everybody knows where to find us. Ted, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
And hopefully, people will, we'll probably have more people coming from your podcast to ours because I think your audience base is probably a lot bigger.
No, it's all smoke and mirrors. Okay, that's all it is. All it is. I'm faking everything, guys. Okay, it's all a work. Don't believe none of it.
But we certainly try. I mean, and you definitely set the bar high for podcasters. Give kudos to Daniel, your producer. You got to tell him Daniel's doing a great job. You know,
doing a great job.
But until we can talk again, my friend, I want to say good night and God bless.
God bless.
God bless.